Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we are looking at this right here. That's right, there has been a Merga, and it is from KZ. Let me look at the box right here. Specifications. It's a 3.5 millimeter L-shaped plug for the termination. The pins going into the earphones themselves is 0.75 millimeters. There's a frequency response of 20 to 40 kilohertz, 33 ohms, 104 decibels of sensitivity, and you get a mic, no mic, OFC cable version, and the silver plated cable version. So there is a different cable. It's like a kind of copperish cable. And then there's the one that I have right now. And I was just listening to a few songs. So here's what they look like. They were in my ears. And so it's an all plastic resin body. The KZ symbol right there. I don't think I've seen too many pairs that have that. It's see-through. It's got this little design that reminds me of, was it a Typhoon? I can't remember, from KB Ear. They had something similar to one of their pairs, the one that was that funky purple, and I don't have those anymore. I gave so many things away, and, I really wish I could keep everything so you can come back to it, and say, oh, does this sound like this and that? But you can't do it. I don't have space. I live in a small apartment, and I really don't have the space to keep everything. Plus, I only have one pair of ears. So, can only have so much. So, after a while, I keep them, I do the reviews, and then I usually give a bunch away to charity. So this one is different from your standard KZ. I have heard people on the forums, they looked at the chart, which I actually should be pulling up. Turn my mouse on. There is a chart from KZ. I don't know. That's nice. My browser's been updated to the newest version. Don't care. So let us find, not the Vader. So okay, I'm looking quad driver sound output. That doesn't mean that there's actually 4 drivers in this. There's only 2 drivers each side, but I guess, quad driver, because you put both of them in your ears. They sound decent enough on the Griffin. I noticed on some dongles they don't sound as good. The sensitivity was, 33 ohms. Power works a little better with these. They're not bass head ones, not by the slightest. There's some decent kind of textured bass there. They are a little on the brighter side. Let's see. Painless swearing, that's all. Nobody cares about that. Here's a chart. If you can see from KZ, this isn't my chart. Starts right down here. So peak right there, kind of a big peak. And then there's a vast fall off right there. And that's their chart. And of course, everybody's going to do their chart. And charts are going to come out different depending on how you set up your thing. Quite honestly, I don't even care about charts whatsoever. What I care about is what it sounds like. What it sounds like on whatever equipment you're going to have. I can tell you right off the bat, this was tested with the Griffin. This was also tested with the Robin. The iFi Gobar Kenzie, and of course one of my favorite devices, the V6 from Tempotech, and a few other things. But for the most part, we ran it through a bunch of dongles because those are the most popular things right now. And of course, then there's higher end stuff like this and the Diablo, and the other stuff that's under there. We've got the Diablo right here. We got the Burson right there. There's a bunch of other things under there. So looking at it, anything on here that stands out? It's a 10 millimeter super linear intermagnetic dynamic driver. And there's also a 8mm high performance dynamic. So it's got an 8 and it's got a 10, unlike the Vader, which came out and that has all 8mm, I believe. Skin friendly resin mesh. Yeah, that's all the same. So it comes with star tips. There's no switches on this, so that's good. Because honestly, I really don't like switches. Filters, when you change the nozzles and stuff, that's fine. I like that. I mean, it's not a necessity because I can change the sound just looking at the tips and stuff. But switches, I don't know. Switches are kind of irritating. If it's a really high-end one, I don't mind them on it if they actually work. We already covered the specs. There's literally no reviews on this. People are so afraid of that chart. And that chart's just, this is not bright and junk. This has some brightness to it. This does have bass. It is not the most prominent thing. I think the mids on this are actually more prominent than the bass. Bass-wise, it's decent. It's textured. It's very, very close to neutral kind of bass presentation. Mid-range, a little, tiny bit of warmth in the lower mid-range. Much brighter in the upper mid-range and forward, but not in-your-face shouty. At least on 90%. And I listened to the Bee Gees with this. And that should have been a horror show if this was really harsh in the mids. And it wasn't. They actually sounded really, really good. What was I? Too Much Heaven. I was just listening to. I like all kinds of music, by the way. Usually metal, rock, stuff like that. I like. Especially 2000s music. I like 2000s music, some 80s, 90s, some 70s. Modern music, there's a few groups out that I follow modern music-wise. And rap, and of course, stuff like that. Reggae, like it all. Jazz, really do like jazz. Herbie Hancock. So overall, the design's fine. This should fit most ears. It should be very comfortable. It's a nice, smooth kind of design. It's a two-piece shell. There are 2 dynamic drivers in there, like I said, a 10 and an 8. And sound-wise, this is not going to be your typical normal KZ people. They're going to hate this. They're absolutely going to hate this. If you're just coming into this and you don't want something that has like heavy V-shaped bass, you'll probably like this. This is more differently tuned. You got bass. It's not a bass anemic. I mean, I've had quite a few where it was like I absolutely hated them because I gotta have at least a quality bass, a nice textured bass. It doesn't have to be overly boomy, depending on the music, because there are some music that sounds better with heavy bass. But these are good. Contemporary type music sounds excellent on this. Maybe classical. I haven't actually listened to any classical or opera on this. And there's good details there. Overall, I mean, I wouldn't say this is a critical listening one, but there's decent enough details. So this is not bad. This is not garbage. Most of it is coming from KZ fans that want the V shape and the booming bass and the treble extending out of your ears and into the universe. This isn't that. This is different. This is more subdued. Now, there are a whole bunch of neutral ones out there that probably do a better job. So, I don't know. For me, this isn't bad. It isn't my favorite, but it isn't horrible. I think I said in a comment, I can respect the tuning of this one because it's different. And they're trying something different with this. Whereas the Vader was, had much better bass response, and it had a better overall, just typical kind of KZ with the bass being a little less prominent, but it was still really there and really deep. And good details on that one as well for a triple dynamic driver. I've had a bunch of triple dynamic drivers. If you wanted something more fun, the trio If you want something that's reasonably detailed for the money, reasonably neutral in the bass, and I'm going to switch back to the other keyboard because this keyboard gets on my nerves. It just shuts off at random times. The other one would just go on the whole day. I really should get a wireless keyboard. But I'm getting off subject. So this is the Merga. M-E-R-G-A. And it's a dual dynamic driver. And rather neutral, rather bright. Decently detailed. I wouldn't say this is as detailed as, say, a balanced armature one. But decent detail there. Decent overall performance in the mids. They had enough body. Obviously, they're more toward the thinner side than the thicker side. But both male and female sound good. And there's no shrill. There's no shoutiness in your face with this one. So, a decent job. I've gone past the 10-minute mark. I try to give you these reviews in under 10 minutes. That way, you don't waste your time. I don't use giant words. Musicality and all that other stuff. I'm just trying to put this in layman's terms, as simple as possible, so you can make a decision whether you want to go to another reviewer and get like an extremely detailed review of this, or you just want to get the basic gist of how this sounds. I mean, I've heard, I don't know, it's going to be at least 10 or 1,000 or IMs or not. I've owned about 5,000 IMs now, and so, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about. And I try to give it in the most simplest terms. So, decent overall performance from this. Not your typical KZ. Not good for pop music or anything else like that. But more toward contemporary pop. It could do a good job. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the KZ Merga. I keep wanting to say Merger, but there's no R on the end of this. Anyway, thank you for watching. Be safe, and I'll see you in the next video.